Traci, I'm laughing because I can't believe we're doing a fireside chat together.
This is amazing.
Yes, right?
Thank you for doing it. Thank you to Real World. Thank you, Tanya. I mean, I didn't sleep last night. And I've been telling everybody who's listening, I'm so nervous. And like people are like, why are you so nervous? This is what you do. You talk for a living. I'm like, I ask the questions. You know, I don't answer them. And at Seneca, one of our profs were always like, you're not the story. You know, the book's the story, the record's the story, the person's the story, the artist is the story. And so that's always been drilled into my head. So I am so appreciative and grateful. But I'm just trying to get my bearings around this. So bear with me.
A lot has happened over the years. You and I are moms.
I know.
Right?
Phoebe and Phoenix,
Woo!
stand up.
They're
Those are
here.
My twins are here. They're 18 now. So now I say that they're my niece and nephew.
Oh, really?
Kidding,
But
kidding.
we know, you enrolled in Seneca's program.
I did.
But did you always know you wanted to go into broadcasting?
So, okay, I can give you the closed notes or the real story.
Real story.
Okay, so when I was like single digits, because I always say I'm ageless, my mother, God bless her heart, she and I slept outside of the exhibition to get Michael Jackson tickets for the Victory Tour. And I went on the Friday, there was 3 nights, the Friday, the Saturday, and the Sunday. And I went Friday and Sunday. And I think that, the tickets were probably like $12 or something like that. But she slept outside with me. And this is my mother who came from St. Lucia with my dad. And, she didn't really understand what her daughter was about, but she knew that she spent a lot of time in her room reading Tiger Beat and Right On magazines and with my record player and then my record player and then my cassette player and things like that and taping songs off the radio. And we went to the concert. And you had different access then. And so we went to the side of the stage. I couldn't get, past the barriers, but there were all these people with laminates around their neck going in. And I was like, why did they get to go in and meet Michael Jackson? And, I'm standing out here, and she's like, oh, they're reporters. I was like, ding, 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 ding. Literally,
Yes.
that was it. That was the catalyst. I need to be a reporter, because I'm eventually going to marry Michael Jackson. I also thought I was going to marry George Michael for a minute there, so it's something about the Michaels. And, I never changed. And so I went to school. Actually, no, in high school, I was part of the yearbook, and then I became the editor of the yearbook. I was lip sync and air band and anything to be performing. Mm-hmm. But I really thought, because my sister had a subscription to Cosmopolitan magazine, and Helen Gurley Brown was such an icon, and I thought, I'm going to move to New York, and I'm going to be like Helen Gurley Brown and be a reporter like that, and then I'm going to meet Michael Jackson. So it was a guidance counselor that said to me, you really have, you're a good writer, and you're outgoing, and maybe you should try and do television reporting. I thought, I never really thought about it, because now you look around, and there's so many at that time, there were so many opportunities, but it was really about Mary Hart and John Tesh on Entertainment Tonight, or, Inside Edition or Access Hollywood, things like that. It wasn't really accessible, but then I remembered, Much Music and City TV, and then I started setting my sights on, let me go back. So the guidance counselor said that, and then I started exploring those options. And Seneca College, I just thought was a good fit. Right, Seneca,
Yay!
yes. Did you really see that one of the Jonas Brothers had a Seneca College jacket on recently?
No, really?
Mm-hmm, yeah, apparently the vintage ones are a big deal. Oh. Okay, it's a little, always an entertainment reporter. Okay, so so I enrolled in Seneca, and it was really great because you got to revolve around doing directing or writing or producing or being the host or, doing the sports or doing the entertainment. And City TV back in the day had the open house. Remember when you could go in? They had once a year, and they had the open house, and they're like, come on in, and you could see everybody and meet the anchors and meet the personalities at Much Music. And so I skipped off one of the days we had production. We had the big show, or I called in sick, and I thought, I'm going to go and be a volunteer. So I signed up, and actually they paid me for the day to be a tour guide for that open house. And I remember seeing, like Amber Skowski and Gordon Martin in person. I was just like Jojo Chinto and Colin Vaughn. It was like, where am I? This is like what an Erica M. And it was just so magical. And I got there, I think my call time was like 7 a.m. and I got there at like 6:15. They weren't even letting us in. And then I was excited. And I wanted to get into the building. I wanted to see what it looked like. And I was like the tour guide that took every tour. Within a couple hours, people were like, I don't want to do this. But I'm like, oh, it's the original home of the, United Publishing House. And this is why the floors are reinforced, because the camera, like I knew everything. Like I just memorized everything about it. And I did tours till about 10 o'clock that night, because they also included the late news. And about, I'm not sure if this is even answering your question, but a week later, Francine Sockett, thank you, Francine Sockett, for giving me my first job in television. She phoned me and she said, I was really impressed with your work ethic. Would you like to come in to interview to be a front desk receptionist? I was like, you mean like Ziggy Lawrence?
Yeah.
And Marcy Martin and and Erica M. There was always those stories, the folklore about people who were receptionists, and they were like plucked off reception and put on TV. I was like, oh, this is even a fast track, right? Like I haven't got the job yet.
Yes,
you know what I mean? But I'm here. So I went in. I don't remember this, but I believe Francine Sockett, because she loves to tell this story and say that when I went in for the interview, sorry, I don't have my back to everybody. I went in for the interview. She said, I crossed and uncrossed my legs and said, would me answering phone get in the way of my on-air career?
No, you did say that. Oh.
I mean, I don't remember.
Yes, yeah.
But I believe her.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe her. I said, but I was like, yeah. So anyway, I was on front desk reception and going to school.
Right.
So that was amazing. It was my first year of radio and television. And I was not only at City TV Much Music, I was getting paid. And it was just an amazing time. And that's when I was telling the story recently. Extended Mix would be on a Saturday afternoon, and Electric Circus would be on a Friday night. Yeah. And, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch would come in. Hey, we're here to be on, Electric Circus, or on the Mix. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll get that for you. And when I was on reception, there was no voicemail. Like, I had, like, a yellow message pad, and I had to put a light on. So Seneca College. First year, I was a receptionist at City TV, Much Music, and I made friends and hung out with everybody, the editors, the camera guys, the on-air people, not so much, because, they're doing their thing, but definitely people behind the scenes, floor directors, and they were really great about mentoring. I had a lot of questions, and I was no responsibilities at that time, so as much time as I could spend there, I would. But prior to that, I just remembered, I was also a green reporter at Scarborough Cable.
Oh, okay.
Yes, or was that? I think maybe that was during the same year. And I had to, like, if a composting plant opened up, I'd be covering it, dressed inappropriately for being at a composting plant. I was always dressed like it was Friday night. And I was being the court right center in the snow, with mini skirt and high boots. It's like, because I knew how I wanted to look on air.
Yes,
right? No matter what I was covering. And I'm like, I have to find those tapes. Yeah, so anything that I could do to be part of it. And that's, I always say that to people, start where you are. Now you can have a blog, or you can, be online. And at that time, if I wanted to do a demo tape, I'd have to, sign it out from Seneca College and get somebody to shoot it for me, and then get somebody to edit for me. And now it's a different beast.
Yeah, there's a lot of messages I take from your story right there alone. But the one thing that stood out for me was your focus and your determination to reach your end goal. So once you did get hired as a reporter, what was that journey like to get to where you are today?
Well, my first on-air paying job was as a style music correspondent for Rap City. And by that time, I was reception in the newsroom. So what would happen on the Thursdays when we're live for Rap City, I would do reception and teleprompter for breakfast television in the morning. So my day would start about 5.
Yeah, that's an early start.
And the teleprompter was, you have to print the scripts, you remember that? Tape them together.
Yes.
There'd be a camera and a light, and you'd have to do this.
You have to feed the script.
And you'd have to, so it was like, I think it was Kevin Frankish, you know? And then I'd have to, have my headphones on and roll the script with him. And let me tell you, I was a young person, so I probably went out the night before.
And that's a stressful job.
And God bless Kevin Francis,
Yes.
because there was a lot of time that I was like, you know what I mean? Like still hungover. And doing the teleprompter. So I would do the teleprompter reception, get off work at 2:30.
Right.
Run to the bathroom, do my makeup, change, figure out what videos we're throwing to, and be live at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
So
that's a lot.
It is, but,
yeah.
But you know what? And that building was great because it was always like multiple jobs, right? I mean, I'm still in that building. Okay, yeah, multiple jobs. And so I did Rap City, and then the next season I became the host of Rap City. And what happened after that? Oh, yes. So they started a noon news.
Yes.
They started a lunchtime news, and that was a big deal. Laura DiBattista was the anchor, and Stephen Hurlbut was the news director, and he came to me, and he said, would you like to be the entertainment specialist, was what it's called, for the noon news? And I was like, first thing I phoned my mother, because I'm like, now I'm legit. You know, much music. Much music was like, and that was also expensive cable. I don't think she had it in her house. I didn't grow up with Much Music. I had to go to Mary-Kate Holly's to watch Much Music. And so I'm on a news program, and I did that for about a year, and I think, and then I moved to the 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
6 o'clock news.
Which is the place to go to at that time, for sure.
Yeah.
But that journey, what was that like? Because, you know, everyone remembers you when you're up high, but there are also lows in the industry, right?
I mean, 100 million no's
Yeah.
for every yes. Yeah, but for me, it was always about being at the place, you know? Like, even when I was answering phones, not even when, I loved answering phones. I can still remember extensions to this day because I dressed, again, like it was Friday night.
Yes.
You know, behind the desk. Saying is dress for the job that you want. Let me tell you, girl, I was dressing for that job. I was dressing for that job. And also, Moses created such an amazing space that they wanted me to have braids at work, you know, or a crop top or whatever I was doing.
Right.
Like they embraced who you were as an individual. So I was very fortunate that way. It was hard, you know. You never think you're going to get it. You never think you're going to do it because it seems like everybody else is ahead of you, and that, you know, you're not where you should be. But I just, you know, my mother, I would phone her, and I'd be like, oh, this is happening. And she's like, are you happy? Are you happy where you are? The girl, put your head down and work, you know? And I thought, and that's what I did. That's what I did. That's what I did. That's what I do. Sorry, that's what I do.
And that's what you still do.
That's what I do. Every day, I'm so grateful for having the opportunity and the space to do what I do. And I don't say this lightly. When people say, oh, I want to get into television, or I want to kind of do what you do, I say, I treat every day like it's the first day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, whew. I come,
Right.
hey, how's it going? How's your weekend? What's going on? How's your kid? Da-da-da-da. And it's not that I'm being phony, and some days I'm tired, but I'm still going to give that energy because I'm in a place now, a leadership place, but I'm also just really grateful. Really grateful. Now every day like the first day.
You went to the States for a while.
I did.
Yeah. I wanted to know the
With Phoebe and
difference.
Phoenix's dad, who was my boyfriend at the time, and he lived in LA. Well, he still lives in LA, and I would, every 6 weeks, we'd go back and forth. Like, he'd come here, or I'd go there. And eventually, you know, we wanted to be together. So he's like, you know, why don't you put it together, a demo tape, get an agent, you know, come to LA. And you know, I always wanted to go to LA, for sure. And I was so in love, and it was all good things. So I got an agent. My sizzle reel was on a VHS. Dating myself. And I sent it to an agency in LA that's known for hosting, Ken Lindner. It's a specifically hosting agency. And they signed me off my tape.
Wow. And
they were sending me out for different shows. And wow, this is one you didn't have on the bio. So the one that I got was called I Dare You. It was for UPN. It was with Evel Knievel.
Okay.
Dairy Heart's in the house. It was with Evel Knievel, and I had to go and say, so this monster truck, or torque.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. And the biggest thing of that was I was living at the Stratosphere. It's the tower in Vegas, and it's it's not the Bellagio, right? It's the Stratosphere, and it was a hard experience because I was away from home. I wasn't in Los Angeles, right? You know, my ex was in Los Angeles. I was in Vegas, but one of the costume people, the wardrobe people, had worked on Casino. And so I got Sharon Stone tea because I mean, Casino, right?
Yes.
Sharon Stone's wardrobe in that
is incredible in that film.
That's an unbelievable movie.
Yeah.
That's my big takeaway from that show.
It's the wardrobe.
but that being said, no, sorry, I should say, but they got me my papers, right? And that was a time when a show would hire you and do all the immigration stuff for you. Right. So it was really great.
So you got to dabble in both markets. Were there similarities, or was it really a completely different experience?
Well, you have to have an agent there, right? And so that's a big thing. I had more opportunity to do different things, right? But I also didn't have a full-time job. So you're trying to piecemeal your career, you know? A little acting, I wrote for Essence Magazine, I wrote for Source Magazine. My ex was the executive editor of Source Magazine. I would write articles, you know, do stuff on Mary J. Blige and things like that. So I feel like, and you had a lot of people in California that had left their homes to come pursue their dreams. So there was a real strength in numbers that way. You could commiserate, you could get little advice from people, and you know, you'd go hiking, you drink green juice, you go to spin class. You know, you do all the
They
LA
really
things.
do that in Hollywood.
Yeah, they put a bread basket in front of you. You're like,
So all of that is true. You hear those stories, but I didn't know if it's true.
Oh,
Okay,
it's all
okay.
True. And LA is the kind of place where you have to. But I want to say something to you. When I moved to LA, Tanya Williams is somebody who, you know, we call them Canadian orphans, not really orphans, but she would invite us for Thanksgiving or for the holidays. And I remember, you know, going and seeing Eileen Davidson, you know, from obviously YNR, and I'd be like, you know, but Tanya, she would have, you know, me, and then she'd have Eileen Davidson, and I'm like, what am I doing here, you know? So it was so helpful to have her, and she invited me to the set of YNR, and I'll never forget her dressing room. You had to go upstairs, and right down the stairs was the Price is Right wheel.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember touching it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a phone then, you know, no pictures. I mean, you didn't have anything like that. So you have people that were doing very well, but of course Tanya was like always very open and gracious, supporting you and kind of showing you the ropes. And so the market, you said if it was different. Yes and no, but you know, once you get on set, you know, you're on set,
and you just be yourself. That's the secret I always say with hosting. Just be yourself.
It's hard though.
It is.
It took me decades to be myself on TV. I feel like that.
Really?
Yeah, like genuinely, you know, like for me to feel comfortable, like I wasn't pretending, you know, to be a host.
Was there something holding you back?
Me?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Me? You know, I don't know. You know, it's always like nervous and. I was always nervous, but I was always well researched and prepared. So that really kind of helped me out. Like whether it was the Kiwanis Music Festival, you know, at Casa Loma or the Jacksons in St. Lucia, I'm going to prep the same way. Yeah. You know,
and you're going to treat everybody the same way. You always do that.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. No question.
All right. I know everybody wants to get to the fun stuff. You've interviewed so many megastars. Is there one that stands out in your mind, good or bad, it doesn't matter, but is there one particular interview that stands out for you?
Gosh.
There's so many, I know. It's hard to pick.
I'm going to say, are you going to say The Rock?
Yeah, of course. It's The Rock.
No. So I'm going to say Oprah because Terry and I, so Terry, were you with Astral then when we went to do the Butler? Okay. The Butler. And so we had done Planes, Trains, and
Planes, Trains, and
Some things I can talk about on the stage. Some things I can't. Okay. No. We had done junkets in LA. Yes. And so we were going to fly from LA to JFK, which I don't know why that flight seems so long. Like it's more than overseas, it feels like, when you land at JFK. Right. And so we had left very early in the morning, and like good entertainment reporters, we went out too late the night before. And we got to the airport. We were going to land in New York and then see the butler that night. So we already had a full day. And we're also like in our feelings because it's Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
And the butler, I'm not sure if you know the story. The butler, it was a story of a butler who served for like 34 years in the White House under 8 presidents, and just an amazing story. But it was Oprah Winfrey, you know, Lee Daniels, Terrence Howard, Lenny Kravitz and Cuba Gooding Jr. in the same room.
That's a
David
lot.
Oyelowo. Like it was what I call a chunky junket. And at the end of it was also Oprah. And I don't have to explain, you know, the feelings about her, because much like today, she's the one that asked the questions. We're going to interview Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. So get to New York, see the movie. The other entertainment reporters from across the country in the States and a couple Canadians, they're like, are you guys coming out? I'm like, I'm sitting in my room. I need to craft questions. First of all, there's a lot of people on this junket, and then there's Oprah Winfrey. So the next day, go through room to room, and I always love those little notepads in the hotels. And I leave Lenny Kravitz, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s room. I'm writing down notes because I still haven't figured out what I'm going to ask Oprah. At the end of the day, she was at the very last interview. It was myself, OG. OG is my friend who does what I do in New York, and Natasha Gargiulo, because that was our 3. Natasha Gargiulo used to be on Entertainment Tonight Canada. And this woman comes out, and she goes, hi, I'm Marianne from Harpo Productions. And someone's like, this is happening. This is really happening. And, you know, I'm so glad that you guys can come out today to be part of this junket. But, you know, we really need you to stick to time, to your 4 minutes, because we'd hate for, you know, Oprah to get to the end of the day and that not everybody had a chance to speak to her. And so the 3 of us who are very, like all of us, chatty Cathys, we're all just sitting here like this with her, because I'm thinking, okay, good, they're feeling as nervous as I am. I calmed myself, and then Reggie and Andre came out. Anybody know Reggie and Andre? Right? Her longtime glam squad. And I thought, it's getting real. It's getting real. So they called my name. I go in, and there's this big, almost like a reflector, and I see these feet pacing, and I'm like, I know those ankles. You know what I mean? I know those ankles.
Yeah.
I know that gait. We've been watching her since, like, you know, I can remember. And I go behind. She's like, Traci Melchor.
and her
Not Melchor or Chor.
Oh,
or Shore.
right.
Melchor. I'm like, out the gate. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's Oprah Winfrey. How are you doing? And I'm thinking, what am I going to ask her? And then all of a sudden, I think the butler came out just a few years after President Obama. He was in the White House then.
Yes.
And I think Phoebe and Phoenix were about 7 or 8 years old. And I looked at her and I said, you know, Miss Winfrey, because I know, I'm not calling her Oprah, she's Ms. Winfrey. Ms. Winfrey, you know, my twins are 7 years old, and they're growing up with Obama in the White House, as a matter of fact. Like, that's what they know. Yeah. I said, so, you know, why is it important? I probably phrased it better than I am now. Why is it important for a movie like The Butler to come out? And so the first part of the question, she's looking at me. And then the second part of the question, I see her eyes open. And then she goes, that question makes me salivate. Cut to camera B.
Yes.
Not good. Yeah. It's me. And then she proceeds to say, you know, you have to know where you come from, to know where you're going. We wear the crowns of our ancestors on our head. It was a whole sermon. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow. And because she's Oprah Winfrey, in that one answer that was just the most beautiful and thoughtful, and she addressed the movie and some of the actors, you know, in addition to the history lesson and everything else. And so in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to be present, I'm trying to be mindful. I'm thinking, okay, I think my producers have got what they want. Yeah. Da-da-da-da. Yep, And I thought, and again, I don't like to make the story about me, but it was 2 months before The Social started. And I thought, I'm sitting in front of the most successful, the greatest talk show host on the planet. I'm going in. Yeah. This one's for me. Okay. This one's for me. And so I asked her, I told her, I said, I have a talk show, I'm one of 4 hosts. What advice do you have for me? She goes, Traci Melchor.
I'm listening.
Make sure they don't make you Oprah Winfrey or Diane Sawyer. You make sure they leave you Traci Melchor. I remember when I was starting the Oprah Winfrey Show back in Chicago, and again, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I don't remember when she started, but I wasn't right there. She said, they made me do this cooking segment. Gail was the one who cooked. I didn't cook, and da-da-da-da. So you make sure that, and it was like, she finished it. She gave me great advice. Time. And so I stood up, and I was like, I finally got, my bearings and mindful. And you know how Oprah was famous for doing this?
Yes. Like grabbing both of your hands, yeah.
So she put her hands up, and so I went to grab her hands. And she pulled me in and hugged me. And I was in her hair.
Did she smell nice?
She
I
smelled
imagine
like
her.
heaven. And
she smelled like heaven.
And rainbows and, unicorns. Like, it was just like all of it.
Right.
And then when she finished her day or was taking a break, she came out, and I don't remember what she said to OG and Natasha, because that's when I think we had to still wait for tapes. Yeah, now we get email links, right? And she went, Phoebe and Phoenix. And she said, Natasha's daughter's name. And then she said something to OG. I was like, what?
She remembered all that? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's my all-time favorite.
That is a great
That's
story.
My all-time favorite. That's my all-time
great
favorite.
Questions. Great questions.
Thank you. But it was one of those things that I didn't, I'm always prepped. I always know.
Yes.
And, you prep and then you throw it out, right? That's what you do. You prep, so you're confident, you know what you're going in. Because if somebody gives you something, you also want to follow up because you're listening.
Yeah.
But with her, it was just I sat down and it just and I was
felt it.
I felt it. I knew. I didn't know I was going to make her celebrate. But I knew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because this is the Real World Film Festival, and
Hello.
we're talking about films and documentaries, you're on the red carpet a lot. And over the years, I know I've seen change. At this year's TIFF Festival, I was at the red carpet premiere for Concrete Utopia. It's a big Korean film that's coming out, and it's an all-star Korean cast. And never in my mind did I think I would interview these movie stars from Korea.
Amazing.
So I'm slowly seeing the change. It's slow, but I am seeing it. What are your observations? What are you seeing?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't turn on a TV or see a film, and it's so great to see marginalized voices amplified and be able to create their own stories and tell their own stories and cast their own stories, and it has just been. I remember when I'd go to events and it's Black women. In the media, it was Suzanne Boyd, Charmaine Gooden, and me. It's just certain things, and then. Okay, I'm going to answer your question, but growing up, Carlene Nation on CTV, Therese Sears on Global, Jojo Chinto on City. My family had the TV in the basement, and my dad would be watching TV. Carlene Nation's on. Yes. Carlene Nation's on, and we'd all run down to the basement.
Yes, yeah.
My mother would have her apron on. She'd have a spoon in because there was a Black person.
Do you know?
On
you
television.
Don't know. Carlene Nation is the one that got me into news. Yeah. Yeah, Carlene, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I tell the story all the time. It was Carlene Nation
Yeah.
who encouraged me to go because I said, and you know how I met her? Through her sister who was at a makeup counter at the Bay store at Fairview Mall.
Come on.
Yeah. I was a poor student, so I was just looking for some samples. And her sister started talking to me. She's like, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'm in journalism, but I think I'm going to go into print because I didn't think I was good for TV. And she goes, my sister is in TV. Let me introduce you to her. And Carlene encouraged me to do it. Yeah, that's my connection to Carlene.
Wow, that's so great.
But I hear you. When she came on the screen, your family went crazy.
That was so big.
Yeah.
And so we see a lot of representation. And of course, there's still so much work to do.
Yeah.
And I like that you're talking about the carpet, but there's also spaces that we don't always think about, like glam. And there's been a lot of gatekeeping around glam. And when I did Lizzie McGuire, I remember I was living in LA. I had to phone my hairstylist, make an appointment for 4 a.m., get my hair done, and you can talk to any artist, any Black artist, Black performer, singer, whatever. They've had to have this situation because they've gone on set and they've actually had conversations over my head. Well, I don't know. I don't. What are we going to do with this? They're touching your hair.
They would do that in front of you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Over top. Actually, the last time it happened to me, and I put my foot down, I'm like, was a Canadian magazine. that was starting the social, and they burnt my scalp. And when I told the makeup artist that this wasn't my skin color, she's like, well, that's the darkest foundation I have, so what do you want me to do? And I thought, never again.
No, okay.
Never again. So I was on the set of Drag Race. I'm very proud to say that I have an all-black glam squad.
Yay.
And the Reverend Silky Nutmeg Ganache from RuPaul's Drag Race, we were filming Verses, and I had to stand down and get a touch-up, and the crew came in, the team came in, the glam squad came in. She goes, girl, an all-black glam squad? Mm-hmm. But I thought, she's from the States. It was surprising to her.
Yes.
So I feel like there are other spaces that sometimes we don't always think about, because to get into the union, you need credits. How are you getting into the union? You know, there's been certain people. And so my hairstylist from Lizzie McGuire, who woke up at 4 a.m. to do my hair so I could get on set, and I just had like a bangs and a high ponytail, you know, easy. And not saying anything about Lizzie McGuire, but you just don't know what you're going to get. Right. So I didn't want to take that chance. She won an Emmy for Blackish. Yeah, for her work in Blackish. A Roxy Lindsay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yes, lots of change.
Yeah.
But
we are taking steps
But
forward.
we're taking steps forward. But
You're
there are other
right.
spaces that we have to think about also.
Yeah.
I remember talking to, was it Viola? For Women King.
Yes,
You know, I
it was
talked to the
Viola.
whole
She
cast.
was here. It
Yes,
was just
2022.
Yes.
For TIFF. And saying that, I'm not sure if it was her, the director, but anyway, somebody from the movie saying to me that they had to get 50 hairstylists into the union to do, I mean that movie is epic, so good.
Yes.
To do the Bantu knots and the drip braids and the twists, because the union didn't have the people that had the artistry, the skills to do this. So, you know, there's still some work to be done.
Yeah, but you are seeing the progress.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's really interesting that you raised that point, that there's other areas that, you know, because the red carpet is the big thing. It's the most visual, but what
Absolutely.
you don't see is happening behind the scenes. I wanted to do a quick, you know, like fun little thing.
I love rapid
where
fire.
it's like quick answers,
I
rapid
love
fire.
rapid fire, yeah.
Okay, so I know how much you love The Rock. I don't blame you.
I know.
So do you like The Rock in The Scorpion King or Jumanji?
Oh. Can I say Fast and Furious?
Yes,
Okay.
you can say Fast and Furious. I was going to put Fast and Furious,
yeah.
but I was trying to think of two very different.
No,
you
I
know.
love that.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I love The Rock in anything.
Yes.
The first time I interviewed him was for, oh gosh, I can't remember the movie. He played like a convict, and he would spend 10 years in prison, and then he was coming out to, I know, I'm changing the way I talk, and to get revenge. And, oh gosh. But in that movie was also Billy Bob Thornton.
Okay.
And so I was really focused on Billy Bob Thornton back then. Sling Blade, right?
Yes,
I mean, I know it wasn't, you know, but he was just so talented.
He's
Writer,
very
director,
talented,
you know,
yeah.
musician, all these things. And, oh my God, the first time I interviewed, am I too long?
No.
But I have another story on top of that story. So the first time I interviewed Billy Bob Thornton, he was, this was the Angelina Jolie
Yes,
days.
they were together for a while.
And were you in the junket? And so, yes, 4 seasons in Beverly Hills. Well, it's actually West Hollywood, but it's Beverly Hills adjacent. The reporters, we line up in the hallway on, like, you know, banquet chairs, facing each other, and it was Billy Bob Thornton and somebody else. I don't remember the other actors. And there's this little commotion coming up the hallway. And all of a sudden, this gorgeous, tiny woman's, hi. Angelina Jolie.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I mean, I just have so much respect for her and admire her so much. And she was like lovely, and some of the reporters knew her, and she said, oh yes, I remember when I did da-da-da. She goes into the room, and to Billy Bob's room, and 2 minutes later they come out, and they're like, you know, and that's when they were all, and they disappear for an hour in the 4th season. We know. And then Billy Bob comes back, and he goes into the room, and I sit down, and he's like, Melchor, what is that? Where's that? You know, and then I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a little aside for the Billy Bob and a little Angelina sighting.
But that's why you were so
that's why I was so
enamored by that. Yeah.
And he was just really present. You know, he was really present and focused, and he bagged Angelina. So. No, but so the movie that I was the first time I interviewed The Rock, he was starring in a movie with Billy Bob Thornton, so my energy was focused on Billy Bob Thornton. And then I walked into the room, and I was just like, oh my gosh, who, like, because, you know.
Yes.
And he could see that I was kind of nervous. And I remember I had my cards here, and I was like, you know, the Tooth Fairy's big in my house. Remember when he did the Tooth Fairy? He was looking at me. I said, I have kids. Yeah, he's always down to play.
Yeah.
The Rock is always, people are like, oh, he remembers you. I'm like, I don't know, he's an actor. But you know what? He acts like he does, and that's all I need to go back with.
Nice. I know you did a one-on-one with Madonna back in the day. So what's your favorite Madonna song?
Dress You Up in My Love. I'm going to dress you up in my
yes,
love.
that's a good
That's
one.
a good one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to see her in January.
Oh, you
Yes.
are going to go to
yes.
concert? Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm not missing a Madonna tour.
Okay.
Or, well, Janet, I've seen from Rhythm Nation. Well, where's Kevin Pennant? Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Janet for life. You know, Janet for life.
I do see somebody with their hand up, so if we can, go for it.
Did you get to interview Michael Jackson?
No. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I covered, but you know, CTV was so amazing in the fact that I had tickets to go see him at London O2 Arena. That's when I was on Much More Music, and I was so excited because This Is It tour, and you know, I was going to take Phoebe in Phoenix, and I remember I was on the 4th floor of 299 Queen Street West when news broke that he was taken in to hospital, and it didn't look good. Yeah. And by the time, Farrah Fawcett died that day, right? Farrah Fawcett died that day. And then so we were like kind of focused on that. And then the news broke about Michael Jackson. And this was a time when I was like kind of a lone wolf about Michael Jackson, you know? Like there wasn't a lot of support.
Yes.
And I'm not saying across the world, but
No.
like, you know, sometimes it was, people were being, you know.
People,
It was
people were talking.
Yeah, people were talking. And but that news, like everybody stopped. Like the world stopped. And when he passed, I don't remember that time. Everywhere we went, they were playing Michael Jackson. You know, stores, out of cars, and I stayed at work. And I remember phoning my mother, and I wasn't living with her at the time, but she's got boxes in the basement of all my Michael Jackson memorabilia, all the buttons, all the this, whatever. And for some reason, I said to her, Mom, could you put those boxes in an Uber and send them to 299? And then everybody started, like, I was on CP24, and then I went to Agent Court to do News Channel, and I was at work till, I don't know, and they put me up in a hotel because then I was going to be on CP24 Breakfast the next day. I took ownership of that story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one asked me to. I just thought, no, this. So maybe I'm not going to interview him now.
Yeah.
You know, I still get upset. Maybe I'm not going to interview him now, but I'm going to do him all the justice.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I'm going to respect his, you know, his legacy and his life and his artistry. And Yvonne Fitzon and Suzanne Boyce were in charge of CTV at that time. And I remember somebody from CTV News was sent, and they sent me.
Yeah.
And this was like a big deal because the world stopped for that broadcast.
Yeah.
And I had to report and then go through heartbreak at the same time. So I didn't get to interview him, but I'm forever grateful to CTV for a lot of things, but that opportunity was once in a lifetime. And I've interviewed the Jacksons a few times too. They were here last year for around TIFF.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
Thank you.